So yeah, we can just have this up if she really prefers using the laptop. But if I just be quick, just to show her how to do it.
So, good day. Our presenter is on her way. She took on another assignment this morning in Hinckley, but she should be here within the minute or so. That was 20 minutes ago, and she was just outside of Brainerd. So, hopefully she's not lost. But I have a couple of announcements to make, and I thought, well, I'll use this time, and then if you want to visit a couple more minutes until she's ready to go. But we've got her PowerPoint ready to go. Unfortunately, her dancer had a funeral come up for today. Her niece passed away, and so I don't think she'll have a dancer today along, but who knows, maybe she can, I don't know, I'm just speculating here, but she might be able to show us some things as well. So I was asked to announce that tomorrow on campus there's a powwow. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. Central Lakes College and Brainerd School District are hosting the 3rd annual, and I would be, I'm going to try my best, being a language teacher, Waduko Dadiwag powwow in the CLC Brainerd Gym. We're serving a light meal, and the grand entry will take place at 7 p.m. Additional activities include the Humphrey Center will be open from 6 to 7, and then again from 7:30 to 8:30. The Bagesi dish game, a traditional hand game for girls and women, will be played outside of the bridge from 7:30 to 9. And the bridge is straight down this hallway to the left, halfway down. And there's a traditional boys and men's game, Moccasin, will be played outside of the bridge near the windows heading to the east courtyard. And I think that's straight ahead as well. And then I have next month, I'll just pull that up here. Hang on a second. Next month's Cultural Thursday will be on the first Thursday. I apologize, but our presenter was not available for last week. And so on the initial Brainerd Dispatch, I believe, we had November 7th, but then we tried to get the word out that it was the 14th, and unfortunately it didn't reach all of you. But next month it will be on the first Thursday, and it's entitled Insights into Deaf Culture. Emily Smith Lundberg of Lakeshore will speak to the college community on the deaf culture. Smith Lundberg was appointed to the State Commission on Deaf-Blind, and Hard of Hearing Minnesotans as an at-large member in 2016. And as per our ASL instructor, she has a wealth of knowledge to share with us about the deaf culture. So I hope you can join us next month. And it looks like our presenter, Adrienne, has arrived. Yay! It's always good when we arrive safe and sound in Minnesota when the roads are such. So as we're getting ready to start, I'll just read a little bit here. So in conjunction with Native American Heritage Month, Adrienne will be our presenter today. She grew up in, and I still, Chiminising, one of the district offshoots of the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. She's received numerous artistic fellowships, programmatic awards, and recognitions for her community work. And I'm not sure if this is true, but your artistic work is still on display at the museum? At the Mille Lacs Indian Museum. And so I'll let her take over. Please join me in welcoming her.
Hello. um, yeah, so I was actually presenting today at the Minnesota Indian Education Association conference in Hinckley. I made it. I'm here. Um, it was like a last minute thing, and I was a board member for them, so I couldn't say no. So Anin, I would start out in the language as I was taught to by my elders. Amikogaabawiikwe Indigenous cause, Adrienne Benjamin Indigu, Mrs. Aga Ganing Indun Jaba, Chiminising Inda, Nijnin Danasug and Yawag, Bagwajakwe Minawaj Awanagijagukwe. My name is Adrienne. I am from Mille Lacs, but I am from the community of Isle, or Chiminising as we call it in Ojibwe. And I have two daughters, Isabella and Talia. So super honored to be here. It's one of my favorite subjects to talk about, and it's near and dear to my heart. I worked for a long time in professional capacity and personal capacity with Larry Smallwood, who went around the country telling the story of Mille Lacs Jingle dress. So it is always my honor, and I always honor that in talking about him when I talk about the jingle dress. So, to start, about me. So she kind of gave you the overview of who I am. I am many things, and it's always amazing that people even care what I have to say, or that people are in this building, and I'm still getting used to that. So thank you for being a part of listening to what I have to say. So I sew. That's another part of this that I'm very close to. We probably made my first jingle dress when I was, I'll say 12, and it's terrible, but there's pictures that exist of it. So I actually worked with someone, and her name is Nicole Ray, and I always shout her out too whenever I talk. She does it for a living, and she has a business called Powwow Fabrics that she travels across the country doing powwows. I'm sure many of you know who she is, actually. If you have ever gone to a powwow, she has a stand there that from pretty much non-powwow season to powwow season, her and her family sew outfits all through that time, so that just during that short period during the summer, they can sell what they make. And she's very good at it. I swear, she has a system down. It's like, if I don't know if anybody is into like the, packaging or whatever that's called, the whole arrangement of things, but her fabric room is like arranged by the rainbow, and it's just insane the amount of, like, she's got it down. So anyways, she taught me, and I got pretty good at it. So I started to sew more and more, and I was being asked to do it for blankets, which in our culture are a kind of a way that we give thanks for different things. They're part of our ceremonies. These are 3 of them that I've made. I think these ones were last year. And I always talk about the one on your left, sorry, is one of my favorites. It's probably is my favorite dress that I've made so far. And I made it to look like those old strawberry candies. Maybe they still give them out. They're always at parades. But that's what my inspiration was for that one. So the inspiration comes from all different things. I like to make dresses that are more traditional, or what they would say is old style. Nowadays, you could go to a powwow, and anybody who has, they are super fancy. Satin, kind of more this type of thing, like very jazzy dresses. I like the old school look. That's what I prefer to make. So those are 3 that I've done. This is the elder that I talked about, where I got the story or heard it all throughout my life. His name was Amik, and Larry Smallwood. But he went across, like I said, the country, and he was a super famous powwow MC. It's kind of a thing. So he was very good on the mic. He had a bold voice, And he would tell this story about the Mille Lacs jingle dress and how it originated in Mille Lacs. And I always want to give a shout out to other reservations too, have their own stories of where that dress came from. The colors might be different, but the story that we heard growing up and the story that he told originates in Mille Lacs. And there's historians. There's one who's actually done a talk here, Brenda Child, who has done the research on timing of when this dream was had in the community and how it kind of relates to the flu epidemic that had happened at that same time. And we'll get more into that in a minute. So I like to let the story be told in a way that is easier. Yeah, so this is a video. This is the one problem I thought we might have with me coming on. So it should be all right, he's going to do a quick search. Appreciate it. That's the fun part about these live talks is sometimes the media works and sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, on mic. So a little bit about the story while he's, yes, I'm actually the, yeah.
I dance jingle because I like the way I move. I like the way it sounds. It makes me feel.
Okay. This is what I wanted to play. Cool. All right. So, this is only the 30-second version of it, so we're still not good, but we're getting there. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right. This will start in a moment. So, I share this because I was a part of it, and I really do think that Amik tells the story the best. And this is my way of doing that and allowing him to tell the story. We worked on this together. I'm not going to show you all 30 minutes of it. It's pretty cool. But it also gives a really good glimpse into the history of it. There's a lot of people in here, Brenda Child. Myself, I talk about it, and another maker from the area, Patty Sam. But you'll get to see the story and kind of hear a little bit of the deeper history. So I'm going to let this play, and then I'll continue after this. So.
I dance jingle because I like the way I move. I like the way it sounds. It makes me feel good and empowers me.
You want to learn how to dance jingle in the correct way from where it originated.
You're supposed to make the sound of rain when you dance. It's also a healing dress.
One thing I've always done was dance for the ones that can't, dance for the elders that can.
The Jingle Dress Tradition is a co-production of the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe and Twin Cities PBS. This program was made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board. Thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
I'm honored to make the dresses that you see in this video also.
Kuema, gawin the moon. Mangi, guys, you want to go chayag. Kita sandamuad o Ziibaaskaa'igaanigooday. Punjabamagat. I want to go in Kenegego and get Kansas in. Kapiwawin the Moadashetago and get the Bajan Don. There was a man and a woman living down there, and the man finally told his wife, he said, you know, I've been having these dreams about these ladies dancing.
Higush goes enough.
Ningi puaj game in a
Aninka and Abindaman.
Migo na saba pane. Niwin ikwewag nimiwad. Niwin and nandewan oga dudasawan.
Aninka and Andek.
Bejig mesqua. Na beje go jawa squa. Minwa beje go zawa. Na beja ganibi shabaganande.
Their dresses are different. They make a noise. He said little metal things look like was sewn on their outfits, on their dresses.
Abina Gego?
Biwabi kunsan. Biwabi kunsan giyo gadeni wanama ogadu dalsawan.
Biwabi Kunsan. Are we going to know Biwabi Kunsan?
Mi wanda minweweni. Mir jigwa and goji. Niwing bawanagwa.
Oh. Ani Kega Pagisawat?
Mi eta jigwayak. Gawin gi ajeshimo siwag. Gawin gaye gi kijabashimo siwag. Gi wa jepibagizawag.
Oh. Gida Wabindina?
Baker. Nina named them. Gay Iji Nikinian. Then what Jepibug is.
Oh. Mina okay? Mina okay gave you Nikenia?
Gama.
Oh. Mina Ogoyak? And that would JP Bagis, na?
Yeah. Mi ate goyak.
Mina Goyak?
Yep.
Uh-huh. Mina Ishi Goyak?
Gawin ajeshimo siwag.
Does it chiga day one the name them? Gonna put Daga wage mag on in the Kwewa gay we do Kawiwat.
Yeah.
She got together with some ladies in the community and they made those dresses how he described them and showed them how to dance. When they were finished with those, sometime later on, they were having a drum ceremony. During the break in the afternoon, he got up and he spoke of his dream about these ladies.
Akwe nuit bajam gegu. Apane ningi hawanag niwin kwewag nimiwad. Bebakan gi nande niwan. God pisa kamawad. Mi dash gaiji oja tuwad. Ongoi kwewag. We went gae ningi pinda kunja gamen. Aho minik.
During that ceremony, he had a little girl, it was his daughter. She was laying there, she was so sick she couldn't move, couldn't get up. But when those ladies started dancing, she heard that sound that the dresses were making. She kind of sat up, perked up a little bit. As the afternoon and evening went on, she was eventually sitting up. She was actually out there dancing with those ladies in those dresses. And that's why people say that's a healing dress.
Anybody see anybody they recognize? So the two people that played the roles of the couple are actually two commissioners for the tribe right now, Brad Harrington Jr. and Melissa Boyd. This was all filmed at the Rutledge Immersion Ground, also called Initiative Talent. And they wanted this to look like what those old kind of ceremonial dances look like back in the day. And they have an arbor that still exists that's out there in the...
Other tribes may have their own version of how the jingle dress started, but this is our version here in Mille Lacs. My grandma, the late Lucy Clark from Woodway, she said those ladies always behaved themselves in a really proper manner. She said, and they danced. They danced, they had pride. She said they were never dancing backwards or spinning around. It was just straight. So that was the beginning of the jingle dress, according to my elders. Now they said they sent one dress up to Canada, somewhere around the Fort Francis area. And another one went to our relatives up in White Earth. And our White Earth relatives gave our Lakota people the dress, shared it with them because they were close by.
My understanding of the stories associated with the jingle dress is that this tradition appears soon after, we can see in the photographic record, around the Mille Lacs region in central Minnesota around circa 1920, which tells me it's the time of the World War I era, the conclusion of the war, as well as this global epidemic of influenza. Other Ojibwe people have similar stories, including the Whitefish Bay, Ontario community, who, from what I have heard, the story is nearly identical to the one at Mille Lacs. And then there are also some communities around the Rainy River area of the border of the United States and Canada that also seem to have new women's traditions of dance at this same time. So I myself can't pinpoint, did it arise in Canada? Did it arise in central Minnesota? Did it rise along the border of the United States and Canada? But what that tells me as a historian is that something very big has happened in Ojibwe communities for this really important and long-lasting tradition to emerge at that particular time. What's interesting to me that the very moment when the federal government is trying to suppress Indian dance and religion across the United States, there was in fact a very famous circular that came out of the Indian office at the time that was called the Dance Order, that expressly forbid these traditions of music and dance. That at this very moment, this new tradition emerges among the Ojibwe women of the Great Lakes. So something happened in the 80s and the 90s so that this tradition, which had been confined primarily to the Great Lakes, it became a very widespread pan-Indian phenomena, perhaps with the rise of the northern and southern powwow circuits.
The music for jingle dress dancing most common is a straight song.
The straight dance, we just dance with the beat of the drum. We go forward and we go clockwise around the drummers.
It goes something like this. It took a long time for me to get it just right, from the feel of the drum to watching them, how they dance. To keep time with them.
Second to that is what they call a side step.
The side step is kind of going from side to side and you're going with the beat. You're not dancing like a straight song, you're actually going sideways, and it's more of a woman thing to do.
were taught a long time ago about the sidestep dancing. We were taught to only sing them only at night. Nowadays you see a lot of them being sung during the contemporary powwows during the day, but those weren't our teachings.
Style jingle dress can be from 1900 all the way to 1950, and you're going to look at a completely different kind of dress.
Historically, the jingle dress cones were made from chewing tobacco lids. And sometimes, depending the area where the people were making them, sometimes they did use copper. And from what I was told, that some people used lids from other things, or they cut them out and then rolled them so that it would make like a clinking sound. Depending what they used, each dress sounded different. I was taught that the cones were used to send the spirits to help peel.
They used to use tin cans, beer cans even, or any kind of cans I've seen on really old dresses, and they used to make them a little more special by turning the outside of the can outward so that the cones were then like kind of decorated and colored. Otherwise they'd turn them inward and just keep them silver, but I've seen it both ways, and those were really old ones that they used to do that with. I made my first dress when I was about 14 off of a pattern that someone had given me, and it was a rough road of learning until I actually met someone who makes them for a living, and she was nice enough to really like hone in my skills and teach me like almost like a boot camp. And since then I've been making pretty good ones, I think.
The jingles, I roll my own, and it usually takes me about a day just to cut and roll them. And then sewing the bias tape to string the jingles, probably about a couple hours. But then you have to measure, cut, crimp each jingle, so it might take you a day or two depending how many jingles you're doing and how many dresses.
To make the sound different on the dresses, there's different brands of cones that you can buy that all make a difference in what the dress sounds like. It makes a difference how closely spaced apart the cones are on the dress. I actually have one dress that I made where I put my cones really close together because it looks awesome and it sounds awesome, but it is so heavy to dance in. And then, you know, you space them out further, you're gonna get less like full sound. I was always told, you know, when I'm sewing anything for anybody, whether even if it's beadwork, that you always should keep positive thoughts in your head, or you should be in a good place, you know, or never have negative thoughts. And if you start getting frustrated, or if you start to feel anything, you know, anger, frustration, that you should stop doing it, take a break, and come back when you're in a better mindset, because what you do goes into that work. You don't want that negativity to go into their outfit.
Just like that.
So I'm gonna hit the quick pause there. Yeah, so like I said, this tells the story far better than I could with a boring slideshow. So I'm gonna fast forward it just a tad to where you can see them more in action. I was planning on having Darcy Big Bear, who wears the yellow dress in most of this video. She was planning to be here today to do an exhibition actually for you all, and we actually had a really tragic event happen in our community, so she wasn't able to make it today, unfortunately, or you were going to get a live show, so I apologize for that. That was part of the plan originally, but we did not want to cancel and wanted to be able to tell the story regardless. So just wanted to leave that out there. But here's the rest, and then I'll talk a little bit more.
Do you have barrettes or something?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're always led in by the beautiful colors, the staff, the eagle staff.
When I'm leading out, I get really excited, my heart starts beating, and it almost feels like it's beating with the drum. And then my feet start moving, and I start getting this rhythm with the drum. And it just feels powerful, like I'm supposed to be there. I'm very spiritual, and I can feel it when I'm in the arena.
Men that went to join the armed forces.
Once we get in that arena, when we brought in the 4 dresses, you can't describe that feeling that we get. It's almost like you're on top of the world when you come out there and you get the dresses going and then you hear everybody else.
As you well know, that the beautiful dance that was gifted to the people of the Ojibwe people, this beautiful jingle dress dance that you see coming behind the veterans, that is highly respected here amongst our people. The 4 sacred colors that you see, these young ladies that are dancing here, bringing in the power and that good spirit and that good feeling.
For Ojibwe people, spiritual power moves through air. And you can imagine how important the jingles are on a jingle dress. But when you have dozens and sometimes even hundreds of Ojibwe women dancing together, the sound is really very beautiful and it's very powerful, and I think anyone who witnesses a grand entry can feel that energy.
The healing power of the dress is that people watching it and just that sound is so calming, and it's just like, for me, my oldest daughter, her name is Bella, she's in a wheelchair and she doesn't walk, so when I dance, I always think about that you dance for the people that can't.
The 4 little girls that came in behind us at the Hinkley Powell, we've all formed bonds with them. The girl that wore the same colored dress as me, you know, she comes up to me now every time she sees me, and I feel really good about that they have somebody positive to look up to.
I like watching the little girls. It just shows that we're doing our job as adults. Our number 1 job is to pass on our teachings to our children. And when those little girls were dancing, that just goes to show that we were doing our job. You know, we were taking care of our children, we were taking care of our future.
When we have dreams and we're in regalia, we're supposed to remember the colors, and then we're supposed to make it the way we dreamed, because that's the dress you're supposed to be dancing in.
We were told that you had to have some sort of a dream about a jingle dress in order to be able to wear a jingle dress. As I grew older, it was kind of taken on like as a duty or as a responsibility to become a jingle dress dancer because of where I'm from, because I'm from Mille Lacs. Around 12, 13 years old, that's when jingle dress dancing became a priority.
I dance contemporary, it's my favorite style. Contemporary is more of the now. It's actually a newer dance. It makes me feel really good. I get to move a lot more. The contemporary dress is more flashy. It has a lot more colors, a lot more designs. They're beautiful. Traditional, what we're dancing, the 4 colors, we actually don't have. We call it a fan. We don't have those because back then we didn't really have them. They started developing over time. I like to use a fan personally. I've been told that it helps block bad medicine while you're dancing. And then when the beats, when we hold it in the air, those are honor beats. So when we hold our feathers in the air, which are usually eagle feathers, we're honoring.
All right, let's put our hands together once again for Teen Girls Jingle.
I love dancing jingle dress. I love the sound. I'm Native American, I'm proud, and that's what we do, we dance.
People come from all around to see the men's fancy dancers. Women's Southern and Northern traditional. Men's traditional. Women's fancy. Chicken dancers in Golden Age categories. Women's contemporary jingle. And last but not least, the grass dancers. A powwow is a communal event. Old friends reconnect and new ones are made. There are handmade crafts, jewelry, and incredible food for all to be had at a powwow.
We were given many great gifts as Anishinaabe. One of them is the jingle dress. It has been a powerful source of healing to those women who wear it and to those who offer tobacco for its healing capabilities. We wear it with pride and we dance for our people. The jingle dress has changed over time, but what hasn't changed is the respect and love that we at Mille Lacs have for the jingle dress.
So that's pretty cool. I laugh every time I watch that at the end. Just funny story. They asked me to do that voiceover at the end, which I didn't want to. I was like, I'm talking in the video, like they're gonna know that's all of a sudden. And then I had to work with this voice coach, and it was so weird because I feel like it's not even me talking at the end, because they're like, use inflection and we had to do all this stuff. So when I hear that part, I laugh every single time at the end. So let me get to my slides, back to slides. All right. Oh, maybe I do need your help, sir. I just started working on Macs again, and it drives me nuts. Okay, back to this. I am a Windows person at heart, but now I've been working on Macs for this new job that I have, so I'm like, it's hard to go between. Okay, so the exhibit. This was the brainchild of Brenda Child, who you saw in the video. She wanted to celebrate this, what she saw as the 100th year or anniversary or remembering of the birth of the jingle dress. And of course it can't be pinned directly on one specific year. Those stories just weren't taken down or told in that way. But she wanted to celebrate the jingle dress. And the artwork that you see here in this picture, when you walk into the Trading Post Museum right now, it's the first thing you see. It's pretty cool. The artwork is by a really well-known artist in Mille Lacs named Steve Primo, who is actually Brenda Child's husband. But he does amazing work. And I was very glad to be asked to create those dresses for the exhibit, and I actually donated them to the Minnesota Historical Society in memory of Amikogaabawiikwe and Larry Smallwood, who you saw tell the story. And I figured that since it is the Mille Lacs Trading Post, that they should have the 4-color dresses there on display to tell Mille Lacs' story about that. And then Steve actually also created a cartoon, or like a comic, that tells that story in Ojibwe, and then it has a translation, and that's also on display. And there's other dresses made by community members. There's some other more contemporary dresses made by me. They have the exhibit is made of dresses from where one of the best ones in there that I like is, it's like a dress that you would order out of the Sears catalog, and they just put jingles on it and ribbon and all kinds of beadwork. It's pretty cool. So they have old dresses like that with actually hand spun cones, and then they have, I tried to make these as, old style as possible with today's. I don't roll my own jingles. I don't think I'll ever get to that point. If people do it, that's on them. If the fact that machines exist, I will definitely use rolled jingles. But I have respect for people that do it, because it's a lot of work with your hands already. When I talk about the making part of this, I think one thing it's to have the sewing skills, but as Patty touched on in here, it takes time to crunch every single jingle. There's no machine yet that does that part of it. So you have the cone and you have that bias tape, which are what the jingles are hanging from, and every single one of them, my daughter strings for me right now, but they haven't developed the hand strength enough to be able to crush all of those. So that is the hard part, and why Sometimes like they do sell for quite a bit of money, but it is because of the handmade process of it. So when you do see a jingle dress, there's no, besides having the cones rolled, there's no real way to like cheat that process. So it's a very long process to make one. I can maybe do one in a day, but that's if I'm just like have nothing else going on pushing it. Yeah, there's another piece on here that's not showing up. I had these embedded in here for some reason. And this is just because I didn't have the exhibition for you. I wanted to give you, this is I'll just wait on it. That's okay. Thank you, though. We'll roll back to my other one. Okay. Cool. Okay, so the last time I did this, I was teaching teachers actually through a program at St. Cloud State, and I gave the same talk, and I think it ended well when I opened the floor to if anyone has any questions. And I'm going to actually, before I answer any, I'm just going to say I love Amikogaabawiikwe's line in that movie where he says, "I don't know everything except for what they told me." Love it. And I think that holds true. I think him and I had many conversations over the years. He passed away 3 years ago. But he would talk about that, you know, that especially within Anishinaabe culture, many cultures, that intergenerational tie between youth and elders is so important because in specific to Ojibwe, our culture, our history, our language was not recorded or written down. So that was the only way that was going to pass down from generations. And he would talk about that with me, and it's some of my favorite memories of him, that we would sit and he would say, you know, you need to pay attention. And I tell this to kids when I talk to youth. He said, you know, those old people used to take me out in the woods and tell me all these medicines and what they were and what they would do and all these different things about these families or people and who was good at what and what families and the clans, all of this stuff. And he goes, at 10, 12 years old, do you think I really paid attention? I really didn't. And he said, and so there he was. And he would talk about his humble moment of that, right? Like him being an elder, and he was looked to for many things in our community. And when he passed, it was a huge loss. He was a language teacher. He went all over the place talking about culture. He worked at the U of M Duluth, Fond du Lac. He was all over the place. Because he had that knowledge. But he would talk about that and he would say, you know, I don't know it all. I do my best to remember what those old ones told me, and that's the best that I can teach you, you know. And so, and I actually have this really great sound clip, and I don't think I have it. If my computer was hooked up, I could play it for you, or he actually talks about that, and it's super impactful, and those words I always think about every single day of just paying attention and doing the most to carry this forward, because you know, going deeper into that, a lot of our community struggles are because of identity or lack of it, having those identities taken away because of colonization, all that other stuff like that. We always just want to say it's, you know, it's the drugs, it's the alcohol, it's the fact that our culture was ripped away from us, that, you know, and these are generations ago, and we're now at a point to be able to bring it back. So that always hits me hard. I just like to share that fact and that fun story about Amik and why I continue to tell this story. And I let him tell it, but I get to stand here and be proud of that moment and carry it forward, right? I get to share what he told me. So, all right, I'll open that to questions. Any question is a good question. I've answered the craziest questions about any of this stuff. I don't know if we have another mic that can be brought around, but I'll do my best to repeat it or hear it and do it. Yeah. Come over here. Ooh. Sure. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the cone, you know, when it's originally flattened, it comes as a circle, and there's machines that do it now, but there's also a thing called a hand roller, and it attaches, it has like a kind of a divot in it. It's shaped like a cone, actually. And you stick one side of that, the, you know, flat round jingle into it, and use your hand, or there's another part that goes on top of it. So it's kind of a male and female end is what they call it. We're all adults here. And they turn it. And that's how that jingle is turned. But to answer your question, so the bias tape that hangs like this has a knot at the end of it. So that's what I was talking about by stringing. So you string them through, you tie a knot, and then you crimp it on tight to the bias tape, and that's how it's stuck there. So it's kind of like a double, you know, you have the knot and the crimp to make sure that it's held into place. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm like trying to, all right. Yes, it is. And I mean, people do it different ways too. I don't want to get into me saying that that's the only way, because there's, you know, women that'll be like, no, it's this way, and that's cool, but that's how I do it. So I can only talk to that. Yeah?
Were they always made on material, or did they use deer skins or buffalo hides or anything? Or was it always material?
I think from just the ones that I've seen in Mille Lacs, if they were the buckskin, or traditionally, they were the traditional dancer then. So that was the ones you see with like the fringe, and it's a different style than this. I've seen that in South Dakota, but I can't say that I've seen it here necessarily. Yeah, I would be more of a traditional dancer then, which is a different style than the jingle dress. Anyone else? Oh, we got one over here. You guys said no dumb question. Okay.
They're passing it on to the home. Is the jingle dress just for the Ojibwe culture, or is there other Indian nations? You said you're passing it to the Dakota or Lakota?
Yeah, so I forget that I don't really talk about the like modern day powwow aspect of it. So when that happened and that dress was kind of traveled to other places from here, we'll say, because that's our story, right? Then it went across the country. So now you can go to a powwow in Arizona or wherever, and you'll see jingle dresses. So it just, and everybody had their take on it, you know, and some tribes have teachings behind them just from when they may have arrived there or what it means to that specific tribe. But here at Mille Lacs, we did it first. No, I'm just kidding.
Too bad it wouldn't been an invention you could make money off to the other tribes. But
oh, as specifically?
Yeah.
Yes, I would say that most of the origin stories of it originate in Anishinaabe or Ojibwe people, yes. But then it traveled and it's all over the country now. Yeah. Cool. Anyone else? Any Mille Lacsers want to ask rugged questions? Hey. Well, so this was, and I thought of this because someone goes, well, how come you don't do the exhibition? I was like, because I wouldn't recover enough to be able to have the conversation with you afterwards. Darcy's in shape. I wish you could have been here because it's different, too, to be able to, you know, hear it on a screen versus hearing it live, right? And just feeling that with her. And I wish then she wanted to be here, too, but like I said, this is the best I could give you, and maybe I'll work up to that, to be able to dance and do the presentation all in one shot. Any
Can you describe what we might see at the powwow tomorrow night?
What you might see. Do you want to talk about it or me? Okay. So usually when powwow starts, that last clip of the movie, it's called a grand entry. And that's kind of where I would say all of the dancers come in a specific order, usually led by first veterans, then royalty of different places. So they have contests or for like ambassadors. That's what I would maybe put that into English, what the royalty do and are. And then they're usually led by the elders go first, warriors, and they come in at it all together and kind of I don't want to say a show because it's not, but kind of is. They all come in at the same time until everybody's in, and all those different styles, the announcer will announce them so that the people watching can know what they're looking at, obviously. And after that, they have other songs in between after that grand entry that are called intertribals. And that's kind of a point where anybody can dance. You don't have to even be in regalia. They invite people out to just dance and take part. So sometimes, recently we did a Scenic Byways conference and talked about this specifically. And like we just did it in a room actually, like smaller than this, and people were sidestepping with us and got up and danced and gave it a shot. So it's really like a communal event, and to talk about those intertribals. So if you're going tomorrow to the powwow, it's cool to get out there. So when you hear that, oh, this is an intertribal, that's for you, for everybody. And you don't have to have an outfit or feel ashamed about it. It's really like, hey, everybody, let's get out here. This is like an event for everyone to enjoy and to experience the culture. So, and if you get shamed, that's not cool. And that's not like, that doesn't speak for everybody, I'll say that much. Because it happens. So just wanted to lay that out there. Is that, if Mary wants to add anything?
Well, it's probably just a good time to just advertise that we are having our 3rd annual powwow on campus tomorrow night. We partner with Brainerd School District. We have a light meal at 6 o'clock. We have a grand entry at 7 o'clock here in our campus here at CLC, and everybody's welcome.
Yes. And you'll get to see the lovely jingle dress, I'm sure. Any other questions? Yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys have like certain music or like a song for like the grand entry that you guys do, like any certain songs or like a famous song that a lot of people dance to?
Great question. So I'm not a super powwow hardcore person, but I believe that like during a grand entry, a drum group can pick any song that they want to sing, but then there is this succession of songs that happens after that. So usually it goes after the grand entry, they'll do a flag song, and that is a specific song. And then it usually goes into the veteran song, and that's a song for veterans or those who want to dance in honor of maybe a veteran that they know or love that is here or is not here on this earth anymore. And then traditionally, they will go into a crow hop, and I'm blanking. What is it? Sneak up. Yes, whoever said that, thank you. Yes. So, and the crow hop is like just what it sounds like. That's kind of how all those dancers out there will kind of dance themselves to look like a bird or a crow. That's kind of like what the groove is to it. And then the sneak up, I would say, is a play on like a battle maybe, and like warriors like creeping to a certain spot, and then boom, there like it starts, right? And then they start dancing more intensely. It's so weird to translate this stuff into English. I always wonder what it sounds like, but I'm just doing my best.
Hi.
Yes.
My name is Kiki. We moved up here from Florida in 2000.
Very cool.
And we moved to the shores of Leech Lake on the Leech Lake Indian Reservation. And in 2002, we were invited to a powwow up in Inger, which was a very small community, very spiritual powwow. And I was so mesmerized by the jingle dancers. I thought they were just beautiful. And it almost looked, when they were dancing, like they were slightly floating above the ground. So as a singer-songwriter, when I came home that night, I wrote a song called Jingle Dancer, and we started incorporating it into our concerts. And what I was missing was that sound of the dresses. So Greg cut a branch from a diamond willow tree that the ice had pushed over on our shore, and I carved it into an instrument that I added some jingles to. My friend Berta was making her daughter Dolores' very first ever jingle dress. And so that was 17 years ago, and as you can imagine, playing that in our concerts so much as we travel around, and it is one of the most requested songs and one of the songs that touches people most deeply, and people will come up and tell me a lot of stories about jingle dancers and jingle dresses. And so my question is that one of the stories I heard was, and I can't even, you might remember, Greg, who said this, but they said even before the snuff can lids that there were jingle dresses that were made with hollow bird bones. And now after watching this, I'm wondering if that was even true, or if you have ever heard anything about that.
Made with hollow what?
Bird bones.
Bird bones.
Like prior to the snuff can lids, but when I hear about the dream and the sound of the metal, I wonder if that was even...
So that's a excellent question. So on this video that I was going to play, but then just decided not to, Amikogaabawiikwe actually talks about that, and he says that people would say that they were made from bones or other things, and I'm only quoting exact words. He says, we don't know where that ever came from. Here in Mille Lacs, we know that it was those metal cones that it originated from in the dream. So that's my best answer I can give you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that one, good question, because he actually does say that in there. And I've seen that too in other places where they've hollowed out even, I mean, I've seen, and that's another thing too, is like artists now, and I think it's cool, like one of my friends, we were talking about it, different things you could do, and I'm sure people eventually might do birch bark cones, or one of my friends said they seen a dress that was made out of shell casings. That's super cool. So yeah, traditional me is like, oh, this should be one way, but then artist me is like, a cone with gun shells is awesome, you know? So
we might have time for one more question, but we're coming up upon 1 o'clock. Are there any other questions? I don't know if you're around for a couple of minutes afterwards.
Yeah, I am.
So
Totally
if you have a
free.
question, maybe you could stay afterwards. Please join me in thanking Amik, Adrienne.
Yeah. Miigwech Mary all the time. They put me on for stuff and force me up here, and then I get better each time. So thank you all for listening and coming. Appreciate it.